Hello, Author Nation. Welcome back to the Author Nation State of the Nation podcast. It's good to be surrounded by old friends, so I'm glad you're back. And speaking of old friends, today we're going to be talking with Jeff and Emily from Soundbooth Theater again, and we're going to be discussing what they're doing at the conference, how their sponsorship's going, and what you can expect on that magical Tuesday night. So stick around to get updated on all things Soundbooth Theater.
Hey, it's Joe Solari with Author Nation, and we're back with Emily and Jeff from Soundbooth Theater to talk all things RAVE. That's your Reader Author Vegas event. All we know is it going to be spectacular. Yes, it will be spectacular.
Absolutely.
All right. Good to have you back.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having us back. I mean, after having been separated for so long since our last podcast.
It was at least minutes.
Yeah.
Did you miss us?
Yeah, it's funny when we do these things because, like, when we did the Austin sessions, it was just like this, where you take a break and you go back in, and it's just like. But the cool thing is the conversations, right? It's having this time where we could go out to dinner and hang out and really get to think through our vision for what we want RAVE to be. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, for the folks that are listening, we're going to talk about what we're doing with the reader event on Thursday evening through Friday evening. And Soundbooth Theater is, again, a major sponsor for the show and is taking not just a financial responsibility for this, but a position to help make this event a great experience. So I was hoping we'd start off with not Jeff, but Emily, because when, a little backstory for the folks, when I had heard about some of the stuff that you guys had done, and I had breakfast with Matt Dinneman in Vegas last year and was talking to him, and he was like, you got to meet Emily. She's the one. She's behind it all. She's doing everything, and she's got some ideas, and you guys need to talk. And so here we are. So let's talk.
First of all, were you threatening him with legal action? Because that's usually when Matt tells someone they need to come find me. No. In all seriousness, one of the things that's been so fun about working with Matt is I've always been struck by how, as his success grows, one constant is his dedication to fan engagement. And so he has been just an incredible North Star in terms of no matter how much we scale, we never want to lose that sort of one-to-one fan engagement that I think Matt so prioritizes. So we've done a few events with him in the past.
A few at this point? I don't know how many at this point.
I mean, well, more that, but that we've organized with him.
I see.
And when I say we've organized with him, it's
Gotcha.
Usually me being like, Matt, this is what we're doing. And Matt says, okay. But, we've done a lot of some fan events with him. And I think it's interesting because in a lot of ways, while our central philosophy is the same, it's about fan engagement, the way that Matt approaches things is a little bit different from the way we approach things. Matt does not want to be stuck behind a booth signing things. Matt wants to be engaging. Matt wants to be out there. So it's been a really cool constraint planning events with someone like Matt, where he says, I want to reach my fans, but I don't want to just stand behind a booth and have them come talk to me. I want to find more creative ways to engage with them. Mm-hmm. So at first, my immediate reaction was, well, this is a huge pain in the ass. But over time, it has challenged us to be creative and to find other things to do besides just, setting up the booths and having people come sign. Now we try to do games. We try to do interactive readings. One thing, we're big about the open bar. But just, at the end of the day, it's all about what's going to give people the opportunity to interact, not just with the authors and narrators that they love, but with each other and fostering that camaraderie among fans as well.
Oh, yeah. I just recently was talking with an author that's a client of mine, and she's planning a reader event in Wisconsin, and she reached out to her fans and said, hey, I'm going to be in this town. There's this really cool historic house that I want to go visit, and I'll buy lunch. And the fans, when she asked them if they wanted to meet there. She had a massive amount of responses, and she's like, "Holy cow! I did not like." Now she's kind of terrified. And more like her big thing was, I don't think I could talk to them all in this time. I'm like, that's not the point. Yeah, you can probably get a picture with them all and say hello and thank them, but more importantly is for them to talk to each other.
Yes.
Right? For them to see, oh, around this brand, around these characters, around this story world, we all have these common thoughts, and we're like each other because we love that story world.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's giving giving people the space to bond over these common interests. And yeah, I mean, maybe not every single one gets the selfie with the author, but what you might get is 10 new friends who are so passionate about the same thing that you're passionate about. So, I mean, that's one of the things that we're really excited to bring to RAVE, is to just create these opportunities for the fans to get at that too.
Well, and just talking, without the fans, none of this works, right? Like, if they're not engaged and they're not enjoying this, there's a lot of good things that they can be doing with their money other than, listening to books or coming to a show to hang out with people that listen to books. Like, this is a pretty big expense for some folks, and for them to do that, it has to be worth their while.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I mean, hey, to take it even a step further, without the fans, none of us are here.
Right. Yeah, they're the ones that are paying for everything. So yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you guys are planning to do at RAVE, whether it's panel wise or the live readings. You've got a lot of great ideas, and we can talk about that, and then we can go into some of the announcements we have about what we're going to be doing for merchandise and things like that.
Sure, yeah. So I think not to disparage any other con, but coming from a genre where audio is such a focus, one thing we've been struck by is how few programming opportunities there are for narrators and other audio producers. So one thing we're really excited about is, we have people who follow these guys. They follow Jeff, they follow Annie, they follow Justin, just as religiously as they follow their favorite authors. Yeah. And so to be able to give these people a platform at RAVE, we're really excited about. One thing that I'm obsessed with, and realize I'm just telling you about this now. So
it's great. If once it's on here, we got to do it.
Right, so. Exactly. It's sort of the and I should give credit to our friends at Legion Publishing. Geneva Agnos kind of got me turned on to this. But having mechanisms at events that allow people to to gamify the social experience. So one thing that we're working on right now is sort of like an event bingo. I like to call it a scavenger hunt because that's just sexier than bingo, if we're being honest with ourselves. But sort of the notion of it's like, everyone gets a card and, take a selfie with this author, give a peace sign to someone and cosplay from your favorite movie, what have you, just to kind of continue to create these opportunities for people to converse. But, our fans are all gamers. So if you gamify it, they will come. Live readings is another thing that we love doing. I think a lot of the time people really have no idea just how much goes into a dual or multicast narration project, but getting to watch these people play off of each other in real time is so special and so cool. So that's, another thing that we're really excited to bring to the event.
Yeah. Also having signings, of course, with our authors. And when it comes to like me and Matt being together, doing signings together, that's when things get a little out of hand and there's way too many people that show up.
It's horrible.
It's terrible. All this attention, all these people telling us how much they like us. But
it's helping lonely Jeff. It's helping lonely Jeff, who used to sit in his bathrobe in his house and cry and eat cereal out of the box. Now at least gets out of the house once.
He still does all of those.
I know,
things. He's just happy.
He's just happier now.
Yeah. So one thing that I've been telling a lot of people that email us now, requesting things like, oh, can Princess Donut do a voicemail message for me? Could you do, like, could you propose to my girlfriend as Carl, stuff like that. I end up always wanting to do them and always forgetting to and disappointing everyone. So instead of us doing email things like that, upon request, what we say to them is, look, figure out where we're going to be in live situations. Come make those requests in person, and I'll do them on the spot. That's what I'm there for. That's why I do public appearances, is so that people can come make these requests in person. So I know I'll be there. I'll just record it right on your phone. But I also, I'll also sign books with Matt and everything for Dungeon Crawler Carl. And we're,
If it's a proposal, though, keep writing in, because we love those.
Okay.
I'm
No,
sorry.
don't do that.
No,
Don't do that, because
just marriage proposals. We've done 3 or 4 of them
I
now,
know.
and they just get better.
They're
it's so fun.
So fun.
So fun.
Think about that. Like, think about the power of the brand that's been built around that's important enough for people for an event like that in their life to want you to be involved in it.
That's why I feel so bad when I forget to do them. It's so, like, it is so touching that we have become a part of people's everyday lives to that kind of extent.
Yeah.
You usually only hear about that from the mega fandoms, from things like Star Wars, or the other super nerdy giant IPs out there. Is like, people get obsessed with these things and they want it. It becomes almost like a part of their mythology, and it becomes so important to them that they want it weaved into the most important parts of their lives.
But here's the thing, Jeff. When I was at the very first 20 books, and I had been doing some things around the author community business wise, and kind of knew of what was going on, but I had no real concept of what the indie community was doing. Mm-hmm. And when I was at that event, it struck me. It was like, holy cow, there is somebody here that is going to create iconic intellectual property that is going to create generational wealth. Like, their grandchildren are going to be drug-addled trust fund kids because of this person's creativity, the stuff that they've thought up. And I think that's what you guys are experiencing. This is what it feels like when you're in that space, is people like making that connection with it's while you're part of that. The crazy thing is, it's their connection with the character. It's the character. It's that story world. It's the stuff that you've talked about, the way you make them feel when you read this stuff. That's what it's in them.
Yeah. And here's the thing: is if we, as creators, don't do things like RAVE, then we actually won't. We actually won't get to that point.
Yeah.
Right. We have to embrace, when we see that happening, we have to embrace it, and we have to wholeheartedly appreciate it, and we have to be there and be present with those people who will facilitate the IP into the rest of the culture in that same way. Yeah. You make that connection with somebody face to face. You shake hands with that person. You sign something of theirs. They're going to remember it for the rest of their lives. Yeah. And they're going to tell that story over and over and over again throughout their lives. Right? They're going to be that annoying uncle that gets drunk at every Thanksgiving and tells this story. And you're going to roll your eyes about it, but everyone's going to hear the same story.
Please don't play the Princess Donut voicemail again, Uncle Henry. Please don't.
Right, exactly.
And it's like, I mean, it's sort of, I'm like, is anyone taking bets on how long on the author podcast it would take to bring up the Wizard of Oz? Because if so, you just lost. Here it comes. It's sort of, I think RAVE is challenging the notion of pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Because it's the opposite. We want to bring everybody under the curtain. And this is the opportunity to do that, and to see what's back there, and to see that we are, who the people are behind your favorite IPs.
Yeah. Well, and the other way, with kind of what you inspired me to think about is how can we recreate the ethos of a brand at an event like that and blur the lines between reality and the story world, right? Make it fun, like whether it's a gamification process or, why are people dressing up like these characters, like they want to be part of that, and it's their identity. And I think that's cool, and we should celebrate that stuff. That's really wholesome entertainment. That's true. So why not really lean into it like we're trying to do with RAVE?
Fan engagement to me is, from my perspective, the most humbling experience, because these people will come up and tell you about all of the hard times that they've gotten through because they were listening to this thing that you helped create. And to, without that interaction, all you're seeing is numbers go up.
Yeah.
All you're seeing is sales, and you're seeing reviews, right? And that's great, but it's still typed out, and it's still like it doesn't hit you until they're looking you in the eyes and they're nervous to meet you. And it's just like, I'm just a dude, but you think something else. You think that there's this bigger thing that's happening. And to make that connection, and to shake hands with that person, and to be the person listening to their voice for a change rather than the other way around. They've been listening to my voice for hours and hours over and over for the same stories. To just be patient and listen to them about their stories and just give them a moment is one of the most fulfilling things I've ever experienced. And again, like, to not put yourself in that situation, to not put yourself in that circumstance, you're missing out on, not just feeling that humility and not just feeling the impact that you're having on the world, but allowing them to feel this moment, and again, sharing it.
Yeah.
Well, and then you get that connection too, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, you're just a guy. They're just a guy. And you have this thing in common that you both love. It just so happens that Jeff's name is on the cover of it as the narrator, and these are the people who bought it. But I mean, even, thinking back to Matt's last fan dinner that we went to, now I'm a front office person, I'm behind the scenes, but it's like I talked to one of Matt's fans for 20 minutes about airline rewards programs. I'll talk to anyone about airline rewards programs for that long. I'm very passionate about it. But it was, I got lost in the fact that this was a person who was here to meet Matt and Jeff and meet their heroes. But we just had like a very normal conversation about another mutual interest. Yeah. And that's what these fan opportunities facilitate.
I think so. Yeah, it's inspiring for everybody around. And the thing is, for RAVE, all these authors going through all these workshops, learning all of these different techniques, hearing things like this podcast leading up to the event, RAVE is a fantastic opportunity for them to test all the things that they've learned. And from previous events, that were author focused, and going through these same types of learning experiences, sometimes when you get to the end, it feels like almost an exercise. Yeah. Right? But if we're focusing more on bringing actual customers in, actual readers, telling people, promoting people who are already fans of the authors that are going to be selling product there and doing signings there, I think what you're really giving these authors is a pressure test, right? Like, okay, not only do you get to go through the motions of trying this out amongst a sort of lukewarm group of people who wandered in, who happened to see a sign, these people are ready and willing to go when you promote. And they're looking forward to these interactions. Yeah. And so they got to be, the authors, everyone who's got booths, everyone who's selling goods there has to be on the ball and ready to go.
Well, what if somebody walks into RAVE in 2024, that person is indicating they are a ideal customer for you, right? Mm-hmm. Like I know we're here to talk about the event from the reader perspective, but like, as somebody that can also serve that person, understand this, they're indicating I'm here to be served. Like, I may be a big fan of Matt and Jeff, but I've listened to those books, and I'm waiting for the next one. I'll listen to another lit RPG book. I'll listen, like, let me know what there is, because they're showing that they're probably a really good potential customer for you. So how are you going to, like, there shouldn't be a better place on the planet going forward for you to be as in trying to find your next customer, right? Like,
right.
And I think that, I know that's scary for authors, and sometimes the thinking of like, oh, I have to be selling live. But if you're feeling like Amazon or Audible are your adversary, there's nobody between you and that person walking down the aisle looking for a book. Like, they're not there. There's no one's going to say no. You can walk up and have that conversation and make that person a customer for life.
Well, and I would also, sort of to expand on that, I think, there are people where, direct in-person sales, like, that's their primary revenue stream. But I think even if that's not your primary revenue stream, even if you know that maybe this is going to be more of an investment for you than you might see fiscal returns on, what you're getting out of it is so big and goes so far beyond revenue. I mean, to your point, it's the experience.
Yeah.
It's getting to interact with those other authors. It's getting to meet potential lifelong fans. It goes beyond the sales. It really does.
Oh, for sure. And I think that when you look at any of the, I wouldn't call them non-traditional, but we get so wrapped up around selling books online on other people's platforms, we don't think about when you go to events like this and you see, it may be hard for you to believe that you could do it yourself if you're a newer author, but when you observe people selling other stuff and how people are interested not just in the books, but they're buying, like, they've already listened to these books, but they want to buy another version of it because it's limited edition, or it's got something special about it because it's showing, it's a way for them to really own more of the brand.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, actually, I'm so glad you brought that up. This is something that obviously is really top of mind for us because we don't carry paperback books, obviously being in audio. But there's so much that you can do with merchandise beyond just the book for that world. I mean, Jeff, if you want to jump in here and talk about the books on tape.
Yeah.
It's really your baby.
So, it was at the second 20 books to 50K that we started giving out these.
Second for us.
Second for us. Not the second of all time. The second one that we went to, that we came and we gave out these greatest hits 2022 books on tape. And if you actually look at them, they're not
so
for
folks
real
that are
books
just
on
listening to
tape.
this, he's got what looks like an old cassette tape, but it turns into a USB.
Right. There's a little hinge, and the USB comes out of where the actual tape would come from, and so you can have a quote unquote cassette that will give you many hours of audio rather than the 45 minutes.
Yeah. Then you don't have to flip it halfway through.
Out of a real cassette tape.
That lady with the 85 Mustang who came up to us a couple of years ago, that was still devastating. She was so excited. All I have in my car is a tape deck. I'm like, oh, you should leave.
Yeah. That is disappointing that we don't actually have books on tape. But hey, these are a great substitute. They're cute, right? People look at them, they're impressed, they get that nostalgia hit, but it's actually practical that you can plug it right into your car and listen to it. And, it's a cool souvenir that we can sell to fans who come to meet us, or as an introduction to what we do for people that come to the booth and don't know who we are. It's, audio has for a little while had a hard time selling physical products because since CDs, audiobooks have, since CDs went away, audiobooks have been listened to on Audible almost exclusively.
Yeah, but you know, I think, and this is something that I've talked with Kevin Tumlinson about and Johnny Truant about, and I listened to Trent Reznor talk to Rick Rubin about the whole idea of how this generation that's been driven into subscription services, they don't own anything. Mm-hmm. And they find themselves where they want to own part of the brand. So things like this can be a way, like, yeah, you can listen to, like, I can stick that into any of my devices and know that no deal being broken between you and Audible or whoever else takes away my ability to get your product, right? Like, I tell this story, I've told it a few times, but I'm going to tell it again because it was so aggravating. We were watching HBO on New Year's Eve one year, and we were watching a movie, and at midnight, the movie stopped and disappeared.
Oh, no.
Because HBO's contract with the movie producer was over at the end of that year, and they just took it away. Right?
Yeah.
That's the world we live in with subscription services.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but like if people decide that there's a certain section of not everyone, but certain people decide there's a certain section of this particular movie that is no longer appropriate, well, you don't get to see it anymore.
Yeah.
If all you watch is on streaming,
yeah,
they can go in and edit it. They can do whatever they want to make changes. Hell, I'm still mad that I can't watch the original Star Wars trilogy before Lucas went in and added the CG and stuff.
With the Hayden Christensen, where it's him at the end.
Yeah, that. Yeah. There's all sorts, like I'm like, I wish that I could watch it without that stuff because I didn't find it particularly compelling when he redid it in the first place.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I want the original stuff from the 70s and 80s, and you literally can't get that unless you go find a collector who's got it on eBay or something.
But going back to your earlier point, it's been heartening to see. I mean, even things, for those who are just listening, you can't see that Jeff and I are both wearing our very generic black Soundbooth Theater t-shirts right now. And we initially got these for us to wear at events. And before long, it was shocking how many people approached us to say, where can I buy those?
Yeah.
So even though I hear what you're saying, and I do think that that's like such a valid concern, like lack of ownership that comes with streaming. But the other side of that coin, I think, is that it has inspired people to want to get a piece of that another way. So and like people will wear our shirts. We have these incredible narration socks that are actually incredibly comfortable. And you know, our whole joke is, if you wear these, you'll be a better narrator. And it's like narration +1 on the side of them. And they're, you know, we did it kind of as a gag, but people love them. And people love, it's like a new way to be part of the community and wear your support.
Yeah. Well, you think about, I mean, you're in the music business, and, you know, why do people buy concert t-shirts? Right. It's about,
because I was there.
And I want you to know I was there. Yeah. So if you were there, you and I know we were there, and we can be like, oh man, we were there. Yeah. Right. Like, that's part of the experience, right? That's the way you make that continue on in your life and be something special. Yeah. And, you know, because when you're there and you're thinking like, I just paid $80 for a shirt that probably cost them $5 if they're lucky, right? Yeah. But like, I want the shirt, right?
Right.
And with our shirts, you don't have to worry about some douchebag being like, oh, you like them? Name one song they ever did.
So I one of the things that we're doing at RAVE from the Author Nation perspective is for the customer experience is this is news. This is the first podcast we're actually talking about this. We're rolling out a RAVE store that will be selling merchandise on. That includes print books. So if you the authors of RAVE that'll be there signing, they'll have their pre-orders up. Any merchandise that Soundbooth wants to put up, they're going to put up. So it's not just books. It's if people have swag or things they want to do, It'll be, what's so cool about this idea is it's a single checkout. So you can go through there and you can pick your favorite author's books. You can go down the list and buy all that stuff, go to one checkout, one transaction, and you'll have an invoice of everything you've bought. So,
That's amazing.
and we're going to have records. Soundbooth and the other authors will have records. So we're going to be able to make sure that everyone, whatever products they get, we can, reconcile everything and make sure that everyone finds all the stuff they get. Because I know at some point these signings start to turn into like dystopian scavenger hunts.
Yes, yeah. Why I love this idea is because it saves everyone time.
Yeah.
Right? All they have to do is find us, show us the invoice, and we don't even have to do a transaction right there with our stupid square that's going to be like have one bar, in the reception and like going to be sharing Wi-Fi with everybody. We don't have to worry about doing the transaction right there. It's like, it's been done. We hand you the thing when you show us the invoice, and it's it. And there's people waiting, especially with RAVE, when we have a limited amount of time, that those lines can get kind of long.
Well, and our hope is as we see that, better than anybody else what you're capable of doing at a show, right? Mm-hmm. And if you start seeing pre-orders getting to a point where it's like, hey, let's just be realistic. We'd love to sell more tapes, but we can't hand these out, sign them, and picture whatever it is that you do when you do that. So we're closing it down, right? Not because you're trying to be, we're scarcity. You'd love it, but it's the experience. Like you'd rather have 250 people have a great experience than have 500 people miserable, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much to tip over that line if
right.
you're not, So sometimes, it is about like, the prudent thing here to do is to close down the pre-order.
Yeah. So I'll just say right now, that would be super convenient for us. Anyone who's listening to this podcast, who's planning to come to Author Nation, if you want to buy books, go look at what you can pre-order now, because that's gonna save everyone so much time, and it's gonna save you some time waiting in lines. We'll be able to maybe even sign things before we even come to the con if we know how many are pre-ordered.
Yeah, so I know of another author who his plan is that he will sign the books that he's going to have there, but only the ones he's not going to do it while he's sitting there because it'll be too many people. But he will sign them, and with the way we have this set up, if you were to choose to do like beyond just signature, if they're like you wanted to say, well, I'll do like a dedication or whatever, we'll have a place on the form where they can fill that out. So that would be there.
That'd be great.
You can turn that on or off, but if it's there, that, like to your point, that's easier to do over the time before, than at the show when you have a line of people standing there. So
yeah.
Well, and to hype you guys, I hope that the listeners know how rare and special this emphasis on the reader experience is, because that's one of the reasons we are so excited to work with you guys on this.
Yeah.
You guys are being so intentional, and you really are prioritizing the fan experience, which I think a lot of the time that's what's missing from these events. So I cannot wait to see how this turns out.
Yeah, I mean, we're spending a lot of time, like, so the folks know, like, offline, Jeff and Emily and the team are talking a lot about this and making sure that we think through all the contingencies, because we're thinking bigger, right? This isn't just 1 year. This is how we make this thing where, next year you want your friends to come with you to this event, right? We want to scale this thing up in a way that's fun for everyone. And we want to think about how this becomes a place for readers to have a community. The author narrator community around Author Nation has initially grew out of the 20 book space. There's a special camaraderie, right? There's something there that people. What I'm hoping for is that circling that author narrator community is this bigger reader community that has that same kind of dedication to each other, right? That they're connecting with their fans, and Dungeon Crawler fans can get into, other lit RPG brands, and other lit RPG brands can go over there, and we can have people say, well, what is that? I don't even know what that genre is, right? What is it, right? It's like, well, let's come in and learn, right? I really believe that what RAVE and events like that represent is where creators need to be focused in the future. Like that is where you're going to win. It's not going to be trying to figure out how to do something on TikTok or do some type of technology thing. It's going to be what you're doing when you're with another human being, because that's authentic and that's unique.
Yeah.
And in the future, you'll know it's real because anything online could be a deep fake.
Yeah.
Right. It's true.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. There really is nothing like being able to meet people who you're affecting in person.
Yeah.
You know.
This is, I don't know if this is the right time or place, but like one of my all-time favorite movie quotes is from Almost Famous. It's Philip Seymour Hoffman as Lester Bangs says it, and the line is, "The only true currency in this bankrupt world is what you share with someone else when you're uncool." And I think they're using, coolness as a metaphor, but it's sort of like if you are somebody, when the sense of belonging you feel when you're interacting with someone else who also maybe feels like they are on the fringe.
Yeah.
And that authenticity, I think, is that's what we try to capture over and over and over again.
Well, and I think that, certainly on the author side, we're being really deliberate, and you can see it in the speakers that we have, is that we are trying to give people examples of other types of success and other types of, weirdness, whatever you want to call it, but just like that there's probably somebody like you that's doing this, and let's find your group, rather than like it's only about making money and doing something a certain way. And I think certainly for the readers, it's a similar thing, right? Like it's especially on the author side, I think it's easy to forget that pop culture is a community experience, right? You want to talk about the movies, when you're talking about like, I want the OG Star Wars, and like I'm nodding my head. It's like, yeah, that I didn't need we just went to last year we went to New Zealand, and what did we do? We rode in a van out in the middle of nowhere to go to Hobbiton.
Yeah.
And if you want, I'd be happy to show you hundreds of pictures that we took at every single flower and honey pot and hobbit hole, and right. And when I was there, my business brain goes to, my God, they're shoving a busload of people, a full busload of people every 20 minutes through this place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A movie that is 20-something years old.
Yep.
Right? Why? Because it's not just that I had a great experience with that movie. I had a great experience with that movie with my kids. Mm-hmm. We've watched that movie multiple times. Like, just before we went, we watched all the director's cuts of The Hobbit, right? And it was almost like oh my God, you forgot all this stuff. And why are we doing that? It's not just because we need to really get fresh on that story. Like, it's the experience you have with other people, with your kids and your friends, and quoting the lines. And I think that, what you guys do that makes it, at a different level is this idea that you can get closer to those creators than you ever could anywhere else.
Right. Being accessible is almost something that readers and listeners don't. It's like unexpected in a lot of ways. I think a lot of artists purposefully sequester themselves in order to do their art, and often they're inspired by their distaste for society.
Yeah.
When they write these things. So it's like completely opposite of their nature to be exposed to the culture that's actually consuming their stuff. So that makes it even more exciting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
When you have like hermetic artists who are kind of forced by their agents or publishing companies to come out and do things in public. Well, now the indie community is like Author Nation is almost the new thing that's bringing creators out of their shell in that way. I mean, I know a lot of authors, and most of them really are shut-ins.
Yeah.
And it really is hard to get them out into public and talking to people, and they're so hesitant to do that until you really convince them to do it, and they get out there and they meet these people that have been reading their books, or they get exposed to people who they're surprised that they're able to get interest from, and they start to change their minds.
Well, and one of the things I think that's so great about game lit RPG, which is the genre that we're best known for and produce a lot in, though we're interested in all sorts of genres. A special thing about it is that most of the authors started as fans. And so I think in this genre in particular, there is such an emphasis on that accessibility that Jeff's talking about, on that fan service. And I think a lot of other genres could really take a page out of that playbook, because now you have these incredibly successful authors who started in the genre as fans, and they know what they wanted to see from their favorite authors when they were on the other side of it, and now they're able to deliver that. So like, I would just love for authors of other genres to see what these lit RPG authors are doing to stay in touch with the fans, and you guys can all do it too.
Yeah. Well, I've observed in some other genres too, where, if you go back just a few years and you talk to some romance authors, they'd be like, all my fans are aging out. I don't know where I'm going to get new fans. I can't sell any print books. And then now we're in a world where it's like, wait a minute, there are people that are packing convention centers to buy print books that are under the age of 30. Now, if you choose to not go and play in those waters, whose fault is it, right? You can't be whining about not having customers when your fans are saying, listen, I care enough about this that I'm not only am I going to come to this event and pay to come to this event and sit in a room, and I hope to hear you talk about your characters and how you came up with stuff and, where the inspiration was for this voice or whatever. But I'm also going to spend a bunch of money on stuff that I can get from you, only at this place. Right.
Yeah. What's really interesting to me is I think it's probably harder to sell books in person, book by book, than it is digitally. Because when you're looking at the digital market, the people that are buying digital ebooks, they're swiping through, they see a Kindle book, maybe it's $6 to $10, and they're like, okay, I'll give this a shot. Whereas if they're in person, they've traveled there. There's already an expense, a sunk expense in them being there, and then the paperbacks cost so much more than the Kindle books. So we have you're facing not just the higher expenses, but all the other authors that are in the proximity. And it's like you're really in there, and you're again testing your sales, your ability to sell books. You're testing your salesmanship, as it were, and you're also kind of like really testing your IP itself, your covers, everything about what makes your books marketable. It's even harder in that environment, and even more satisfying when you actually make the sale and you look at the look on that person's face when they say, yeah, you know what, this is interesting. Yeah. Let me give it a shot.
And that's usually going to be a fan for life.
Usually.
Whereas
if your book's good.
Yeah, if your book is good, that's usually going to be a fan for life. Whereas somebody who is maybe, I'll give this a spin on Audible or Kindle or whatever, if they're not hooked in the next 10 minutes, they might forget your name forever.
There's a deeper sense of investment when you're buying in person than if you're laying in bed shopping on Amazon.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with that. But I would also say this: there's also a pretty good chance after you start to get a fan base that you're not selling a thing, that your fans are selling into new fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, what's this about? And the guy says, oh yeah, this guy's series is the bomb. Like,
I've done that as a customer.
right. Yeah. Like, because you want your friends to have the same experience you had. It's like, dude, you have to read this, man.
I was at NYCC, and I was in the Artist Alley, and I ran into this one author who wrote The Last God, which is a fantasy series, like hardback, and between, like, with it was just such a beautifully made hardback, and between each issue there was an actual score of music, like this traditionally written music that had something to do with the issue, and I was just super impressed with it. And I'm with my friend, I'm like, right in front of the author, dude, you should buy this book. I bought it already, and I made a sale for that author right in front of his face. And it was just because I enjoyed it so much. I wanted someone else who I knew loved comics enjoyed as well. That those opportunities are rampant in these environments.
Yeah, that's the thing I think that we forget, and we hope that we can facilitate is that fan interaction where they can find other people and build their community. We've all been to these events where there's people that are cosplaying, and maybe that's not your thing, but like, if you got people cosplaying your characters, it's like, that's the concert T-shirt in its ultimate form. And people I remember I was at near Chicago. They have a big Renaissance fair in the summer, and there was the cosplay day that the guys do these different theme things, and I went and had my picture with this guy that was dressed up as Chainsaw Man. I don't read it. My son's into that comic, and it's like, I know that, and it was like going to be cool for him to have a picture of his dad with a guy that had an amazing costume made of that character, right? Like, so that whole thing isn't just about that guy has the fun of dressing up, but people are stopping him and saying, "Can I have a picture?" And like, I know what you're up to, and like, my kid's gonna love this. Like, that's life, man. That's what we want to be facilitating at this event.
And it's so cool for the creators too. I mean, he's probably going to be mad at me for blowing up his spot, but like, Matt still, when we see people cosplaying as Carl and Donut, Matt still takes a picture of them every single time. Like, it is still, I mean, for years now, he's been seeing people dress up like his characters, but it's still exciting for him. He still gets that rush, and it's still meaningful to him. So it's like, it's such a, I don't know that there's a higher form of flattery than cosplaying as a character from.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Well, I we look at Chris Kennedy's stuff that they did with the Four Horsemen universe, where they let the fans basically go set up their own mercenary chapters, right? And so, and these guys are creating their uniforms and writing out rule books, and this is how, from books that he's written decades ago, So like, it's really amazing when you can impact people's lives. And all we're trying to do is at this event is like, hey, we're here to celebrate that. Like, let's have some fun with it. Walking around dressed like Dungeon Caller Carl in Las Vegas, you probably could get away from it with it, but like, you certainly can do it at RAVE.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people in their underwear in Vegas.
Actually,
Like, frankly,
a lot more than you think. So, awesome. So, what else, as far as RAVE's concerned, before we wrap this up? Do you think folks should know as far as like what Soundbooth's going to do at the booth or with the live readings? Or?
So definitely there will be a live reading session. Last year at 20 Books to 50K, what we did was we had a sign-up sheet for authors, and we would narrate, like, okay, it's your turn, you're on the list, and all that. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do it this year, but last year was a little too intense. There were too many. And not only that, we were like kind of set up right in the middle of the thoroughfare in this awkward
Well, we
spot.
Definitely know Mandy's already decided you're getting a different spot in the midway. And then as far as you're concerned, like, I know that you guys are not thrilled with cold reads.
No, no, love doing cold reads.
Oh, do you?
personally.
Oh yeah.
Well, you do. Yeah, you get online and do it all the
That's
time.
my thing.
Yeah.
You know, like I have a lot of fun just like jumping in with both feet and seeing what happens.
Okay.
But you know, we're coming with a few different narrators. Hopefully, you know, there will be plenty of other narrators outside the company who will be willing to sign up and,
Yes,
and
come
do
play
it.
with us.
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
So you're cool with that? If there's other narrators,
Oh,
yeah.
100%.
That's
Like
our
more than cool.
preference.
So
Yeah.
we'll make sure there'll be a sign up form in the show notes for narrators that want to jump on this.
I think that's one thing that's kind of missing from the wider narrator culture is there isn't enough of a sense of play amongst us. You know, we want to be hearing other narrators perform live. We want to be challenging each other, and you know, we want to see each other work. It's something, you know. I think that the actor spirit should be more facilitated within this industry, and that's what should be inspiring our performance is our ability to just immerse ourselves within the story and become the story. You know, we need to learn from each other, and the only way to do that is to do it live and in person and to talk to each other about the process, you know. So
That's cool.
I mean, yeah, SBT, yes, we all want to be performing live, but we, again, part of why we want to be at Author Nation is because we want to inspire other narrators to be here too.
Well, and what I hope happens, you know, it's something that I observed in the past is that networking piece, and when it becomes something beyond just like, oh, we write in the same genre, but it's like, oh, we talk and we see some kind of spark and there's some kind of idea, and it's like, what if we did, like, what if you and I partnered up and we started doing, like, yeah, I'd be willing to do that. And I know of, you know, multiple situations where that resulted in either really amazing best-selling series or writing partnerships that have gone on or collaborations. And I think that we can, you know, try and set the best possible environment for that to happen with narrators too, where like there could be somebody that, you know, becomes the next, you know, duo of narration, or who knows.
Yeah, I would love it. I would love it if somehow, you know, during Author Nation, you know, two different narrators get together and really start to mesh, really start to jam, and like really
come up with a whole new thing.
That not only separates. Not only creates a new product, but separates themselves from us, you know, and but also goes in the same direction. This is another independent company that found this whole new way of doing things, and it's something to compare us against, you know.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, I want the community, I want to inspire narrators, but it's a selfish thing.
Yeah.
You know, I want people arguing about whether there's another company that's better than us.
But even beyond the audio side of it, I mean, one of the things that I'm so excited about and can't wait to work with the incredible Mandy on is just, you know, how much you guys are going out of your way to have sort of genre specific content. And, you know, I don't, you know, whatever form that takes, I think is going to be so cool, because that's going to be such a great way for people who, if they're already into a genre, they can meet fans of that genre. If they think this might be something for me, but I'm not sure, you're giving them a place to discover whether or not it is. I think that's going to be really special.
Is that Romance Ball still happening?
Yeah, so we have the fantasy party that it's not just romance, it's everybody's invited.
Okay.
But so that the fantasy party is happening on Friday night. And that's we actually got extra space for that. So that's going to be in the Paris part of the casino in the Versailles room on Friday evening. So I don't know what you guys plan to do with that, but you're welcome to hang out, and if you guys want to do something, I know we're going to have Mandy on, and she's going to talk about her plans for that party, but that's, you know, a place for people to kind of let their hair down and have fun and kind of close out the whole event. And so that, yeah, we have stuff like that planned. We have panels for different genres for them to talk about, you know, We're going to have a narrator panel that's, not about how to be a narrator, but like, here's these great narrators in these different genres that have fans and have their fans interact with them. And it's really more the reader facing thing that I know most authors enjoy more than being, sitting on a panel and talking about science fiction to other science fiction authors. They want to talk about the books. They want to have fans asking them those questions and being engaged with the story. So there'll be a bunch of that stuff. And there'll also be some events for, genre specific, like Q&A stuff that we'll do. But, we're also trying to, really have that opportunity for that signing space where authors can do their thing, right? We want them they know their fans better than we do. Here's your place. How do you want to engage with your fans?
And it's so cool that you're allowing people that freedom.
Yeah.
I think that's so special, truly.
Yeah, and we also want to make sure that we, do this thing, very deliberately and grow it in a way that is, safe and healthy for everybody and doesn't get us, too crazy. And we've all heard horror stories with other shows. And, I think that, with some of the decisions we've made, like with this store, like our thing is something will go wrong. Right. And it won't be anything that we've planned for. Mm-hmm. So let's plan for as much as we possibly can. Right. Like all the contingencies we can think about. Let's get them all flow charted out and figure out. It will be something else. But at least when the other thing happens, it won't be a problem. Right. It'll be like, oh, it's just that thing we planned for. Right. Right. It's just the internet going out. Of course, the internet's going to go out. Right. Like, but I think that's the thing that I'm most proud of the team about is how we have those conversations and we're thinking through that stuff and really drawing on the wisdom of somebody like Mandy who's been doing this for 12 years and knowing that we have folks that we're not treating this thing like I don't know if they said it online or not, but this thing is not an afterthought for us. It is the primary focus. If we are not as a community of authors and narrators thinking about fans, we do not deserve to be in this business.
Agreed.
Very well put.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's always been how I felt about this industry ever since I got in here is, I want the people that are spending their hard-earned money doing things that are more important than writing books or narrating books to feel like they got their money's worth.
Yeah, for sure.
And recognizing that if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an awesome note to end on. It's been great to have you guys on again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And it'll be good to see you in November.
We cannot wait.
Yeah.
And we hope that all the people that are listening, all the readers and listeners that are thinking maybe, do you do this? Come to Las Vegas, check it out. We're going to have a lot of fun together. There's going to be all kinds of things for you to explore in the genre you love to read or listen to, as well as finding out about genres you might not know anything about, because the indie community is the ones that are creating all the new genres.
That's 100% right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there are not other events like this one. This is going to be the reader event.
Yep. Well, again, thanks for having you on.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.